There is an elemental question concerning the Van Tillian presuppositional method, which, I believe, must be answered definitively in order to clear up what is actually being argued by its proponents. This will call on the viewer to use their full cognitive faculties of discernment, so please pay close attention going over this for repeat listens if necessary, so that what follows is not misconstrued. Is reason a presupposition, or is reason a necessary precondition for our presuppositions? This is the fundamental dilemma that must be answered in deciphering if the argument either blooms or is doomed. 1. If reason itself is a presupposition, then no one gets out of the vat of solipsism, because no one can know that their reason is valid in order to formulate or accept any knowledge claim as fact, rather than merely hallucination. Prove it to yourself. Say the sentence presuppositionalists use to attempt to validate their reason. I can know certain things for certain because God has revealed them to me in such a way that I may know them for certain. What has been presupposed in this statement? A presuppositionalist should have no problem picking out the presuppositions here. First, in making this truth claim, one has, even if unwittingly, assumed the I, the individual conscious self. See for yourself. The very first word, what is it? I, the individual conscious self. Well, can the individual conscious self be verified? Even a solipsist would say yes. Descartes worked on this problem and came up with the realization that even doubting the existence of the individual conscious self is evidence of thought, and thought is evidence that a thinking being must exist. So we have presupposed the individual conscious self in the very first word of our statement. What is the second word? Can. I can. The individual conscious self has assumed or presupposed it is capable of doing. Doing what? Word number 3. Know. The individual conscious self presupposes that it can perform the function of knowing. In other words, it has assumed its reason. This I, the individual conscious self, has assumed its reason, and through its reason, it has assumed it can know things outside of itself in order to get to any understanding of the external world, which includes getting the very understanding that God has revealed knowledge to him by implanting this reason, along with logic, the senses, a conscience, faith, etc., within him. 2. If reason is the necessary precondition for our presuppositions, rather than a presupposition itself, then we have two choices. Either deny we can know anything, or assume our reason and use it to attain knowledge of the external world, including knowledge of God. Let's look at the definition used in Cy ten Bruggencade's documentary, How to Answer the Fool, for the term presupposition. We see then that reason has been assumed and presuppositions are built upon it, which makes this line of questioning invalid.
My question is, how do you know that your cognitive faculties are operating properly? And you haven't demonstrated how you know your reasoning is valid.
As we're talking about your cognitive faculties, you said that you can't know that they're working properly, which means you can't know truth.
How do you know your reasoning about anything is valid?
What the presuppositionalist argument argues for is first that we cannot know anything apart from God. I agree with this, but I cannot escape reasoning that I used my reasoning to reason to this realization. So how can I get to this realization if I must first validate my reasoning rather than assume it? I do not see where any human being has any other choice but to assume their reason. Yes, we could each be strapped face down in a psych ward experiencing life as a delusional dream, but truthfully, we must each take on faith that we are not. There is no other way, regardless of what is asserted. Essentially, in arguing the unbeliever's reason is a presupposition while holding, even if unwittingly, that his own reason is a necessary precondition for his own presuppositions, the presuppositionalist has grabbed the proverbial ladder of what the philosophers call one's properly basic beliefs, used it to escape their own solipsism, then, having arrived outside of their own head, whereby they recognize through the reason they have just assumed that it is God who is the basis of the being of their knowledge, that he is the very reason they are thinking in the first place, that he is the very source of both their knowing and their being, they then turn around and tip over the ladder they have just used to escape their own skull and know, the same ladder anyone needs to use in order to escape their own skull, and then demanded that the next guy climb up to where they are without using this ladder.